So, right. Okay, so let's answer your questions one at a time. Identity profile, this data set, identity profile, is probably the like de facto repository of anything about a person. It's a huge data set. It's also quite messy, and it's a little hard to digest because so much of the data in here is nested in nested Avro format. But for instance, let's answer your questions one by one. So the ID of the member is this one, right? That's the ID of the person. If I look at their position data, I'm still going down, scrolling down, scrolling down. Oh, where'd it go? Where is your Where is your position data? It's always fun. I feel like we're kind of like data archaeologists, just trying to figure out who set this up and why in the world they set it up the way they did a very long time ago. I thought I saw in here their profile data. Hold on. I know it's in here somewhere. Um, you've been using databases, identity profile. Correct. Yeah, I'm looking at that one. Jess, did you find um, their specific jobs in that data set? Sorry, not that one. You're talking about profile position, right?
Yeah,
It's probably,
sorry, I don't know what that copied the wrong one.
got it. So it's this one, right? Member profile position,
Yes.
databases. Yeah. So it should be in here, Azade. That would make sense given the way this data set is named. And in this data set, member ID is the ID of the member. It's hashed, but it's a consistent hash across all tables. And then the data itself is actually going to be buried in this XML section. Oh, but location is not in the XML section?
But is it the location field there that has a country code and a postal code? I think it's somewhere down there.
Let me check. Izu, which data set were you looking at?
And just this one, the identity profile. I think I saw it a few seconds ago.
Identity profile will have, I think, their current location. So for instance, if you say I'm in Ohio, it'll say you're in Ohio. But what Azadi wants is the position, the location of each job. So if you worked in New York for a summer, that job will be tied to New York. If you worked in San Francisco for the next summer, it'll be tied to San Francisco. Azadi, this is a great question. I'm going to take it offline because I don't know where the answer is right now. And then I'll get back to you. My suspicion, by the way, is that this data is either it's not here because it got scrubbed as part of one of our scrubs, and we can unscrub it. I think we were pretty cautious when we originally created the data set in terms of removing things that we didn't know they would be explicitly useful. That's option number one. Option number two is actually buried in one of these fields, just in a very bad format, which should not be very surprising. And so it's hard to interpret, but it's actually here somewhere. So I will dig into it for you, which is just to clarify, it's by position, right? So by basically a job you've had, what is the location of that job? Okay, so I'll get back to you about that ASAP. Okay, let's take one from the line. Jess, it sounds like you had something to ask.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of questions. I'm trying to figure out. I have both some data questions and some pig questions.
Sure, pick the one you think is most important for you, and let's do that one first.
Okay, I'm gonna start with just some basic pig questions, because these are kind of first order. So, first question is, if I like submit, so this is just working with the grunt interface, but if I send
Right.
in something that I realize like, oops, that was a really bad, like I ask it to dump something and then I realize it's gonna take forever.
Uh-huh.
How do I
Yeah.
kill it?
Yeah, Control X, Control C. Control X, Control C.
Okay.
That's not just true for pig, by the way. That will kill any running program from a Windows machine on a Linux prompt, right? So I mean that's generally true, right? If you Control X Control C, that will usually kill whatever thing you kicked off or whatever thing is running.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So it's either one, right? It's either
No,
Control
it's both.
X or
Control X and then
oh,
Control C. So Control X, Control
okay.
C. Great question.
I
Actually,
wasn't sure if that just got me out of pig or if that actually killed the job itself.
yeah, that will kill it. Um, how do I kill a pig? I'm putting this live, as you can tell, into the Q&A. How do I kill a pig job that or a pig interactive? Oh no, a pig job quickly.
Can I ask if there's a way to like not to kill the whole process, but just stop the current one, like the current command?
Yeah, that's I think much more difficult. I think the short answer is no. Like you either kill the whole thing or you kill nothing. Or I mean, so you have three options, right? Option number one is you just wait for it to come back. Um, uh, if you've really kicked off something huge, you will actually time out, which will automatically kill it. Option number two is Control X Control C, which will kill the whole pig interpreter, which will also kill your job. But I think it's actually quite difficult to kill a specific, step. Okay, one more, Jess. What else?
I also I've tried to do the thing where I export to where I put a table into my into HDFS for review, but
Right?
I tried to follow the steps from the tutorial and I must be missing something because I don't think it was quite doing what I wanted it to do.
Okay, let me
So
go ahead.
well, I was just gonna run through the commands from the tutorial.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull that tutorial up, just to make sure you have the right commands in front of you. It would suck if I told you to do the wrong thing. Um, where the hell is this? Oh, here it is. Okay, so here's a tutorial, right? You guys see my screen?
Yep.
So let me just outline it for you, not in code form, but just in human form, and then let's see if it's doing the right thing. So basically, so I think two things you guys all know at this point. One is that the data in grid, the data in your cluster is stored in a format called Avro, which is great for storing stuff on the cluster. It's not great for humans, right? So it's hard to interpret if you just got the file itself. It's also not great, for instance, if you want to, pull it off pull it off the cluster, join it with something in a spreadsheet and manipulate it that way. So the data stored in Avro, you want to convert it to a flat, basically just raw text format, delimited by whatever you want to delimit it by. I usually like pipes, just the bars, because they rarely show up in data. And then you want to store that into a directory, and then you want to send an email, right? So it's basically convert your data into pig storage from Avro, store it into a specific directory, and then send that email to EGC data, and they'll move it for you from the directory to your home directory on Gateway. Okay, so let me walk through those three steps real quick. Jess, was that your take as well? I mean, I haven't looked at the script, but hopefully that came across in the script as the instructions.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was just something about the command and putting it into the right folder. And maybe I actually am doing it okay. I just
Well, let's
just wanted to run through it.
let's do it very quickly as a class. I'm booting up Putty now. Unlike you guys, I have to access this server through a different server, so bear with me while I get into it. I have to remember to log in. Okay, let's keep going. Come on. Why are you so slow? Okay. Okay, so now I'm in Bridge, right? That's the cluster you guys have. I'm gonna boot up. I have the K init, which is just this is authentication. Now I'm gonna boot up the pig interpreter. Okay, it's running. Great. And so let's load something very small. I'm going to load this very small file called endorsements 2015-04. So this is all the endorsements as of 2015-04. Now it's loaded, right? And then I'm going to store it into oh, interesting. I'm going to store so another aspect of some of these data sets is that they are automatically stored. The screen is frozen. Can you see my screen? Is it coming through?
Just
Maybe
updated.
it's, oh, okay, yeah. It might just be I'm typing very slowly. um, the other aspect of this is that Avro and Pig by default store the data split up into files, right? So you might have noticed if you're just like, if I for instance, if I just kind of scroll around, this is just the Linux, this is just the HDFS file system. This is where all the data is stored. And I look at the files. I go to data. If you guys can't see this, just let me know. And I look at databases, and I look at identity, and I go to profile. Okay, so if I go and look in this directory, there's like, I don't know, several hundred files, right? Because the data set is huge, and so what it's doing is splitting up the data into these files and storing them distributed across all these machines. So the instructions here basically tell you to store it into pig storage, which is a flat format, and then run this command, which is going to merge all the data into one file. So again, this is for convenience, right? If you got 300 files to deal with, that's kind of a pain. It's much easier for you, I think, if you have one file to deal with. So let's try these two steps. I'm going to open up a new editor in Pig just so I don't screw up your um, uh, save stuff. So I want to save. This is the one I loaded, and there's row 1. Let's store that into my folder, dsal, and let's call it test file. That's fine. And using pig storage, right? So this will kick off the store. Oops. Output validation failed. Oh, already exists. That makes sense. Let's call it test file 2. Test file 2. At some point, if you guys end up with a bunch of junk in your directory, you should clear it out. There's, I think, a 2 terabyte limit in terms of personal space. 2 terabytes is actually not that hard to reach if you somehow blow up your data by joining two massive data sets together. This will take a little while to run because it's actually going to read physically off the disks this file, convert it into pig storage, and then save it back to the disk. Oh, maybe not. It's 15% complete. That's not too bad. So while that's running, I'm going to fix this other command. Desout to your username. Desout. Okay. So this other command is a pretty simple one to understand. So it's an HDFS command. So it's a command that's going to run on the Hadoop file system. I have no idea what this DFS means. I think this is necessary. This git merge command is telling it to take all the files in this directory, right? User dsal test file 2, and put them together. And then not only does it put it together, it then puts the output into this directory, or into this files rather, right? And the security team has basically created, a directory for each of you, so that when you store stuff into this directory and you tell them about it, they'll go look at it for you, and they will hopefully fix it. Let's see. I have an error during parsing. HDFS. Let's see. I might have to run this command outside of. I may have to run this command outside of the pig shell. Let's see if this works. Okay, that works. What? Oh, I don't have a directory. So only you guys have this directory, jobs, review, your username. So when I try to save into mine, it doesn't exist. It doesn't work. But it should work for you. Um,
Also, I'm sorry, but yesterday I also tried this command and it also showed that it couldn't make directory in my job review directory. So could that
oh,
be
interesting. So
normal or something
how,
wrong with mine?
so
Mm,
Yisa, how did you get around that problem?
and it's very similar to this error message, but it says make directories failed to create directory in my user directory under this path.
Okay, I understand, but like, did you figure out a way around that, or did you just put it somewhere else?
So I can create this in my home directory, but I think it's not allowed by the logistics. So
Jessica, let me just try to put it into your directory, right? I'm pretty sure I don't have permissions to write into your directory. J Jeffers, I assume.
Yep,
Let's just see
and
what happens.
sure.
Oh, nope.
mm,
Okay. Let me just investigate real quick. Two Fs. Oh, yeah, right. Good call. Good call, Michael Lee. Let's see if that works. Always fun to troubleshoot your code in real time. Um, nope. Okay, so it doesn't work. Let's see. There's some. Let's just make sure these directories exist. I mean, I can't believe they don't exist, but you never know. So now I'm looking in the directories with all the files. Let's go into jobs. Let's go into review. Yeah, there you are. Jobs, review, J Jeffers. You're right here. Jobs, review, J Jeffers. Okay, that's bizarre. Um, I will check on this for you, Jessica, or Jess, and find out why it's trying to create a directory that exists, and why you're not able to store into it. So let me get back to you once again on this problem of why this git merge function does not seem to be working. I mean, it feels like some people have figured this out because I see data coming off of the cluster, on a consistent basis. Um, so I'm pretty sure we solved this problem, but I just need to make sure these directions are accurate. Okay, great question. How about one from the stream? If not, maybe more from Jess.
I don't want to monopolize the session.
It's okay. I mean, there's only five of us, right? So, Oh, Azadi's in the file. Okay, got it. Right. Hold on. Let's go back to Azadi's. Okay. Okay, yes. What is company type attribute and profile position data? Has it anything to do with company ID? Excellent question. What, what, what does it say in our data documentation? What was this specific? Profile position. Okay, let's go to profile position. Hey, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we have I mean, I hate to air a dirty laundry. I'm pretty sure this is true, by the way, for all tech companies. We have terrible documentation. Um, so thank you for bearing with us as like I try to rectify that company type. Interesting. Azadi, do you happen to know the distribution of company type? Like for instance, like is it if it's always C, then I think we know the answer. Oh, you have it. What's the distribution of company type? Jess, you want to go ahead? Um, Azadi, my suspicion is that this is a field that we no longer use. Um, or it's just my suspicion is actually not industry, right? It's referring to something else, and my guess is we're going to find that most of the companies, company field
Okay,
found
I
in the
have it.
company field. Okay, what's the distribution?
So this is from right. This is from the data set companies. Is that what you guys were looking at?
No, but it's probably the same data.
Yeah. So this is from that first one listed, and there are about so most are C corporations.
Okay,
Um, which I took. I mean, it said in the data dictionary there for that first table, it said public companies, but I'm assuming it's actually just C
a C corp.
corporations.
Yeah. Okay.
And there are about
Oh, here we go.
849,000 of those, 850,000 of those.
Excellent.
And then the second most common is E at 208,000. So I can let me just copy paste into
Okay.
the questions. Or
Excellent.
do you want me to copy paste that actually into the data dictionary? Or
Yes, both would be great.
you know what? Let me send exactly what I did the chat so you can check it.
Yeah. Excellent question. So thankfully, you guys are one step ahead of the game, and it sounds like oh, perfect. It sounds like it's referring to this company type and companies, and I'm going to update the profile position data to reflect that. You think somebody would make software for doing this kind of documentation? Turns out either we don't have it or they don't make it. Okay, there you go. And if you find this to not be true, like for whatever reason, it has the same name, but it has, it has like Q. Like if a Q shows up in your data set, where you're only expecting C, P, N, G, S, D, E, O, please do let us know. Oh, P is the most common. Got it. Privately held. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, a lot of small business in the world. Okay. Excellent. I'm going to delete this question since, basically it should be answered right now, right? So I feel like it's kind of redundant to the data doc. Okay, Zadie? Cool. Okay. Let's take one more. Oh, yeah. So I answered this question already. I'm going to find out for you offline, and I'll get back to you, and I'll update this question when it's done. We've been advised to use suggested company ID, but it's mostly no. We stay with member selected company ID for now. Is this from identity profile or from one of the member level data sets?
I think it's member two positions.
Member two positions. Member selected company ID. Yeah, I think so. Let me check on the specific definition, but I think we only suggest a company when we think it's wrong. So I'm not surprised that the suggested one is mostly no, because most of the time the person is picking the right position. Sorry, is picking the right company. Let's go to this. But I think you're right. You go ahead and use the member selected one for now. I think that should not be an issue. This one, right? And I'll just make myself a note. Use this more or use suggested. Use this or suggested. Use this or selected. Okay. I will get that answer for you as well, but I think yeah. So Michael's pointing out the member selected company ID seems to match fairly well with company ID. That makes sense. In general, right? If you're finding that a data set that you're using kind of makes sense, or it's populated for the majority of cases, or you spot checked and it seems reasonable, it's probably reasonable, right? There's, the data quality is not 100%. So I don't think there is a data set where you can say, I'm not going to use it until, every single field is filled for every single member or position. Okay, back to the stream. Jess, I think you're up next.
Okay. Some questions on data now. Sorry, give me one sec. So one question that we had was still on company data on the so that first database that companies one, the list of exchanges. So let me just I think it's easier if I post my question.
Sure. Yeah, either put it in the Q&A or oh, here it is. Okay, companies exchange list of exchanges. What are these exchanges? How are they categorized? Are they self-reported? Oh, so many good questions here, Jess. Like, and so little knowledge on my end. Uh, I've never ever used this data set. Um, so is your question like, do these exchanges map back to like physical stock exchanges in the world?
Well, I was hoping they did. Um, but for example, NYS, seems like it would be that New York Stock Exchange,
Would make
but
total sense.
but it includes companies that don't seem like they should be on the New York Stock Exchange. So, yeah, we were wondering if you could look into that for us.
So company. I didn't even see that. Like, so you guys have this data set? I
Sorry,
mean, it's
that's not
not.
a table. It's in that Flash
Oh,
exchange is
got it,
wrong.
got it.
It's
Okay, it's in
a
the
field.
company's table. Got it. Okay. Um,
It's a exchange symbol, I think.
yeah, here we go.
Yep.
Stock exchange symbol if publicly is right. So hopefully this symbol, right, is actually if it's a public company, the stock symbol, and hopefully this exchange symbol is like which exchange is being traded on. But your suspicion is that we are not doing this correctly, and I will check on that. Boy, this is easy. Like so many of my questions are, I don't know the answer, and I will find out later. Okay. Uh, so how about another one that hopefully we can answer?
I'm looking through my questions.
Okay.
Oh, I have a question about dates.
Okay, go ahead.
So several of the uh, tables, for lack of a better word, have
Uh-huh.
dates as
Yes,
one of the fields,
correct.
but I don't understand the format of the date.
Oh, this is a question I can answer for you. Wow, it feels so nice. So all the dates, I haven't found an exception yet in your data set. Um, okay, Azadi, I'll get your question. I'll get your question next. All the dates in these files are stored in epoch format. Hold on, let me just. I
Oh,
think I
right. Yeah,
answered
I
this right.
think we actually have something.
Yeah,
We actually
yeah,
have
you do.
something from that.
So basically, the short answer is it's like milliseconds since 1971 or something bizarre. I can't remember the exact definition of epoch, but it's not readable. And so there's this function, and it's in the pig training. There's a function called epoch to format, and it basically takes in the date, right, the raw date. It takes in a format, and the format is given as a string of text. So YYYY, MM, DD. Notice the big M here. Big M is month. Little m is minutes, right? And then a time zone. Um, there's a lawnmower somewhere around here. And it outputs the date formatted as however you put in the format. So if you put in YYYY it will be year, month, date. Or if you just want date, it can just be DD. Or if you just want hours, it can be HH. Um, but you'll have to convert every single date you see using this function called epoch to format. One other thing to know about epoch to format does not come natively with pig. So to use epoch to format, you have to register this library. This library is accessible for everyone. It's just sitting in a shared directory, and then you had to define, for convenience, uh, that function epoch to format, and then you're off. Then you can go ahead and use it.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. That was kind of redundant because the
That's
document
okay.
was missing.
Okay, so Azadi, let's see. I've been trying to compute industry size, which is a number of companies at each industry. Great. I use three methods, and they give me three different outcomes. Welcome to the real world. First, I use company data. Second, I use profile position data. Third, I join the two. Basically, companies that exist in company data not at all included in profile position. So you're saying there's some companies for which we have no employees? Zade? So maybe there's industry ID in both. So let me just make sure I understand. Are you finding that like company X in one data set, maybe the position data set, maps to industry A, and that same company then maps to industry B in a different data set? No. Okay. First, I use company data. Second, I use profile position data. Third, I join this too. Oh, it's a number of companies in each industry. Um, so so let me describe. Yeah, maybe you can share code, but let me describe the mechanism going on behind the scene. Um, and maybe that in itself will explain to you why you might see some differences. There's two ways in which a company gets gets created in the data set. Okay, so way number one is that somebody told us they work at the company, right? So imagine we don't have Microsoft in our data set, and somebody says, "Hey, I worked at Microsoft last summer," and we see enough of that occurring, and then we'll say, "Well, I think this Microsoft thing is a real company," and we'll create a real company ID for it. That's method number one. Method number two, or very similar to that method, is Microsoft just calls us and said, "Hey, we're a real company and we need to be in LinkedIn," right? And they have a company page and so on and so forth. That's method number one. That basically it's organically from the company or from the employee. The other way that we do it is that we're starting to ingest companies just by scanning the world, just by just by surfing the web and finding these companies that maybe they don't have any employees on LinkedIn yet, or they have very few employees, or their employees are on LinkedIn, but they're mapped to the wrong company, or for whatever, a variety of reasons. But basically, we're finding companies in the real world and ingesting them into the system. Over time, so what I mean by that is like you will find companies that have no employees because we haven't made the connection. The companies came in through this ingestion method, and the employees came in through, a human being putting something into LinkedIn. Over time, what you'd expect is that we will fix those mappings and figure out, oh, this person that worked for MSFT, which is not a real company, actually works for Microsoft, and map them correctly. But you will find in the company's data set, there are some companies without employees. Um, so, I think you're probably safer, frankly, using the industry and company data. Like, I think the companies table is kind of the definitive set of companies, but it's actually safer for your research to scrub out companies that you don't find in the people data set, in the profile data set, right? Because the people turn out to be a very good filter to make sure companies are real, because they have a lot more incentive to get that right. It's going to probably undercount, right? I mean, so there's definitely going to be companies that don't get captured this way. Um, but my guess is you'd rather be a little bit conservative in terms of the number of companies, but a little bit more accurate in terms of exactly what those companies are and how they map. Is that helpful? I think there were more company in position. Oh, well, that's bizarre one too. I mean, that's something I don't expect. I mean, I would have. Let me check on that. I would expect that anytime somebody inputs a company into their profile, that we automatically run a job and say, hey, new company, let's create a new company. I would expect the inverse to be true, though, that sometimes we get a company through ingestion um, that we don't have employees for yet, or that we haven't mapped employees to yet. Okay, yeah, I'll take a look at your code and I'll check for you. Maybe we can just check together offline. But I think the short answer to the question is the company's data is the definitive source, but you're probably better off joining it against the profile data, which will be, act as a filter for you and eliminate some of the noise. These are great questions, by the way. I feel like, we're like digging, really kind of digging into the meat of what you guys are working on. Okay, more questions. Jess,
I
I
think
know you
that's
have
all
more
I had
questions.
actually.
Really?
In the immediate, yeah, I'm sure more will crop up, but for now, that's what I
Um,
have.
Michael, Azade, Yizi? Okay, so
Oh,
let
I
me
have
just quickly.
one little
Oh, go ahead.
question.
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry. It's just an error that I got in fussing around at one point. Um, I got an implicit cast to long error.
Is it an error or is
Um,
it a warning message? Like an error
maybe
will
it's a
crap out.
warning. I was just wondering if you like. I just wanted
Yeah,
to understand.
yeah, I
Is
see.
it just like I'm using some field and
No, no, no. You'll see that all the time. That will come up all the time because I think implicitly in some of the functions, it's going to do a comparison, right? And so if one side of the comparison is a long and the other side is an integer, it'll it'll implicitly cast the int to a long. It's always safer to cast into long, right? You can never, go the other direction. But if your code completed, that means it was just a warning. Um, it didn't stop the code. If you want to get around that error, I mean, I don't know how much you care about this, but if you want to get around the error, you can explicitly cast in pig. If you see my screen right now, you can explicitly cast in pig by in parens putting the type. So for instance, if
saw
you
that.
have something, yeah, so if you have something like an int, right? Let's imagine epoch format is not an int. In epoch format, we'll dump back a string, but it's usually a string that's very easily converted to int. But imagine it gave you back an int. You can convert this to a long, right? And now have decimal places. I mean, decimal places will be 0, but it'll have decimal places. So if you really, if those errors bother you, then look for situations where you're doing some sort of comparison. One side's an int, the other side's a long. Explicitly cast the int to a long, and the error will go away, or you can just ignore it.
Yeah, I think for some reason it was there might have been something else going on as well. It was like wasn't returning. Um, I couldn't quite tell what the issue was when I sort of restarted things one way. So
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. No problem. Anything else, guys? Okay, let me just quickly review because I want to make sure I have the list of things I need to get back to you guys on. Um, I'm going to investigate git merge and why, for instance, I am unable to store stuff into your directory, and just make sure that's working correctly. But to answer the question, and I'll put it back in the Q&A as well. Uh, the flow is basically convert your data to pig storage, join all the individual files together into one file, dump that file into the jobs/review directory, and then send an email. Right. So those are 4 steps. Yes, Azadi, to answer your question, we do have a shared directory on Gateway. It's /EGC. So let me show where that is. Um, Everyone should have write access to this directory already. If you don't, let me know. But so if you see my screen right now, right, export/home/edc, that's a shared directory for not just for your team. Oh, but okay, so you want a shared directory for your team? If you guys really want a shared directory for your team, I can look into setting that up for you. One way to do it is just to give your team access to each other's directory, right? So Azadi, you have access to everyone else on your team, so on and so forth. I can also look into just creating like a team 7, shared directory. I'll look into that. Shared dir on gateway. Okay. Isa, yeah, that makes sense with the company's question. There's actually a couple of companies' questions. One question was, should we trust the company's data more in profile, or should we trust the company's data more in the company's table? I think the answer is you need to join the two together to get the sort of best, cleanest data set, but I'll check on that. Jess, you had a question about Exchange. I have no idea. But by the way, is this like important for you? Like, are you actually planning to use Exchange as part of like a feature or something?
Yeah, because we want to look at public companies.
Oh, right. Okay, that's right. I forgot about that. Okay, yeah. So I'll
So
look into that for
equity is
you.
important for us.
Let's see. What other question do I have? I think that. Oh, yeah. And then the important one from Azade is, where the heck is this location data, especially by job? I don't know. I know I know we have it, right? Let's put it that way. Like, if it's not on Bridge right now, it's not that hard to get. Um, but I don't know where it's been buried on Bridge, so I will look into that for you. So I have a lot of follow-ups on my side. Just uh, a day or so from now, take a look at the Q&A doc, and hopefully I'll have updated most of these questions with an answer. And if I forgot something, just email me, and I'll follow up and get it taken care of. Okay,
Thanks a
well,
lot.
very cool, guys. I appreciate the time. Hopefully you guys are, it sounds like you guys are making a ton of progress. So I'm pretty excited for you guys. And if anything, reach out to me, reach out to your mentors, and we or someone on this side will talk to you next week in the next office hours.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, see you guys.